Good evening. I'm going to read the introduction from this latest book. It is called Geo-Interfering, Patently Patented David Yates by David Hollingsworth and David Albert Yates and Dane Wigington, 2021. I've already read the first few pages, but now I'm going to read the introduction. There are never any pages to these books. You just have to go through. So I'm going to read the introduction, and I might show you a few of the pictures afterwards, depending on the time, because I hadn't planned to be up reading to you. I planned to be in bed reading to myself, and then I thought, well, if I read it to myself, I then might want to read it again, so to other people who won't be able to get the book. It's not cheap, but it's worth the money, trust me. When it's a matter of the truth, you want to know the truth. The introduction, and the book is called Geo-Interfering, Patently Patented. I'm not very good with that word. The question: what if there were a monumental environmental threat that you did not even know was happening? What if you found out that it is affecting your health and that of people you know and love? What if you knew it was such an enormous problem that it has the potential to destroy our crops and trees, the soil they are grown in, our entire water supply, and whole ecosystems, and that if you did not act, we could never turn back. We are not talking about fracking, nuclear energy, or the oil industry. We are not even talking about climate change. What if it came into use in an insidious way, just as GMO foods have come into our food supply without our knowledge? What if it appeared harmless, but it was not? And what if it was so cleverly woven into our culture that we did not even see it anymore? What if it was so masterfully stigmatized and wrapped in controversy that if you thought it strange or concerning, you would be scorned or ignored? Well, I've been both of those. It sounds like science fiction, but it is not. It is happening right above you, and it is called geoengineering. You can find articles and debates in which scientists are proposing to dim the sun to slow down climate change using a technique called solar radiation management, SRM. Their concept is to mimic the dimming and cooling effects of a volcanic eruption, like what they've got going over Italy now, Etna, and existing particulate pollution made by human activity. However, it has been out of the proposal stage for quite some time. And even though officials will not admit it, SRM, solar radiation management, is already in full scale operation. It exists. Where I live here in Heacham, Norfolk, it's happening all the time, night and day. You hear the big planes and you see the skies and you feel the stuff affect you, hits your windows, and it's got barium in it and the colours in it. This isn't in the book, but I personally, that's why I'm reading this to you, because I am experiencing problems. It always affects your chest, always, if you're sensitive and you don't take medication. I do not take medication, so it hits me before it would hit you, because if your body's used to medication, it's used to being poison. I mean, not all medication's poison. I retract that. SRM sounds like a viable solution to slowing climate change, and scientists have repeated how cheap it is over and over again. What, the cost of the planes? Who's paying for that? Bill Gates? That's not in the book. But it comes with a price. In fact, it comes with many global climate, excuse me, my nose is tickling. Global climate engineering, geoengineering programs are radically disrupting weather patterns. You can see it all over the world on YouTube. All the weather's gone crazy this year, crazy everywhere. So you watch regularly programs on YouTube, I do, following all the weather, the crazy things that are happening for poor people, wealthy people, all people are getting affected. Disrupting the hydrological cycle, causing drought in some areas, flooding in others, rain in Australia in parts where it's never normally raining, destroying the ozone layer, and contaminating the entire planet with the toxic fallout from these atmospheric spraying operations all over America. Joe Imbriano's talking about the chemtrails there and showing it. No one's talking about it here except a few. People obviously don't look up anymore, or if they do, they think it's normal because it's been going on so long. Climate engineering programs have been fully deployed for many years. There is a mountain of hard science data and film footage to back up this statement of fact. In fact, this book is full of pictures. There's a lot of pictures in this book. There is a mountain of hard science data and film footage to back up the statement of fact. All available data indicates that the ongoing global geoengineering programs are mathematically the greatest single assault against the web of life ever launched by the human race. To interfere with Earth's life support systems is insanity beyond comprehension, and this is exactly what the completely out of control military industrial complex has done. There are no regulations on these atmospheric spraying programs. I'm right near Marham. My parents were stationed there, and that's not in the book, stationed at Marham. They settled here in Norfolk. I and my second brother were born here, and the third one. And the first one, when the doodlebugs, he was born in London. But they're still based in Marham, and that is probably where these big planes, you can hear them up there, and you can see them spraying, you can see the skies. You don't need a telescope. It comes down on your windows at different times. So normal rain is very different to what hits our windows. So let me continue. There are no regulations, that's what bothers me, on these atmospheric spraying programs, and no oversight whatsoever. We are all currently being subjected to these ongoing tests. Climate engineering, weather warfare. Let's turn the page again. David Albert Yates wrote these few words, because we don't know how long we'll live with all this going on, do we? It's just as bad as an atomic bomb. Dear People of the Future, by David Albert Yates. Dear people of the future, take this look into your past. Page by page, we have catalogued a crime so unsurpassed, a crime so very vast, the biggest criminal endeavour ever to have harassed. Not all of us were innocent in this perpetrated slay. A tiny handful did not consent, whilst the others looked the other way. Dear people of the future, take note of these here skies. If this for you is still occurring, then please accept my apologies. None of this is natural, though you will consider it the norm. For you they have created their perfect storm. And the next one is by Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org. And there's a picture in there. I'm going to read his words because I don't want to have to keep doing small segments when I have other things I should be doing. I have a commitment to read the Bible in 1 year, and I have to type it up first because it's in different places, it's in chronological order. And I'm doing 3 sets of meditations and prayers each day, so I can't spend lots of little time on this. I'm going to do what I can in larger segments than perhaps normal. So sorry for the listener, but my time is precious. I'm old. My 75th year, I think. Probably getting. The weather terrorists are now more desperate than ever. Winter weather warfare is a primary component of the climate engineering assault. The highly toxic chemical ice nucleation operations are decimating what is yet left of the Earth's life support systems and the entire web of life. The extremely anomalous surface cool down in Texas and other parts of the world are not just random acts of nature. Global climate engineering operations are not just a proposal. They have been an ongoing reality for over 70 years, so that's as old as me. They've been going on, only they're getting worse. Erratic and unprecedented weather is radically increasing everywhere. Though there are countless forms of human activity affecting the equation, the global climate engineering programs are by far the single greatest and most destructive factor. The geoengineers are manufacturing winter weather scenarios on a scale that can scarcely be comprehended. Such operations are nothing short of winter weather warfare. Let me cut in here. It's not normal to have snow or flooding in the deserts in Arabia. I have seen snow and big hailstones and flooding in the deserts this year in Arabia. Even they're stunned by it. And the poor camels, I felt so sorry for them. They're not used to hailstones, snow or flooding. They're used to sand. And it was pathetic and sad. So what I'm reading I know to be true, and I have a Bible over there. I would put my hands on that and swear on the Bible that what is in here is the truth. That's why instead of going to bed I'm reading it to you. Ecosystems are being decimated by the climate engineering onslaught. No habitat, no humans. What will it take to bring the geoengineering issue to light once and for all? Patented processes of chemical ice nucleation for weather modification are a primary component of the climate engineering programs. The climate engineers have also inflicted, sorry about this, but I am tired, but I'm determined to finish this. The climate engineers have also inflicted immense chemical ice nucleation damage to the forests of Northern California. In recent years, there have been numerous scientists and scientific agencies discussing the challenges of global warming and suggesting ways to mitigate further warming from occurring. These solutions labelled as geoengineering range from the realistic and possible to the clearly impossible and absurd. Are some forms of geoengineering currently being advertised as a proposed solutions, when in reality they are already taking place and have been for decades? If geoengineering is occurring, is it a reasonable strategy to combat global warming, or is it a catastrophic measure that carries with it very lethal consequences? Geoengineering is being advertised to the general public as a way to mitigate some problems associated with global warming, when in reality there are many other agendas behind the curtain. Geoengineering is now the massive elephant in the room, is that geoengineering programs are very real. They are currently fully deployed across the earth and have been for at least several decades. Stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, called briefly SAG, S-A-G, and solar radiation management, SRM, are programs designed to saturate the stratosphere with reflective aerosols through the use of modified jet aircraft. Unfortunately, most scientists are either turning a blind eye to SAG and SRM, or are simply misleading the public intentionally as to the reality of the atmospheric spraying. These programs are cited in numerous patents and documents. About 150 of them are openly discussed in the USA, and Joe Imbriano from the USA has been talking and teaching on videos on YouTube about the same subject as I'm reading here. He's an expert. The Fullerton Report. Excuse me, I must take a sip of drink. Sorry about that. Congressional hearings on weather modification and are outlined by numerous scientific agencies, including the Royal Society, etc. Those unconvinced of the current aerosol spraying deployment need only look more closely at the available data now accumulating across the earth. Any truly objective and unbiased analysis can only lead to the conclusion that indeed geoengineering is occurring and there are devastating effects taking place. What are the various indicators of geoengineering occurring in our skies. 1. Consistent horizon-to-horizon aircraft trails that slowly expand and merge until the entire sky is often covered with a blanket of artificial cloud cover, and haze is only one form of SAG and SRM. Let me cut in here. It's identical out there where I live, near the seaside, as described here. I have a permanent problem here because I have my windows open night and day, and sometimes whatever it is coming down, it affects them. And if you go out, it affects you when you're out. It's real. There increasingly appears to be ever greater efforts to make the atmospheric spraying much more covert, with shorter, bright trails of sprayed disbursements that turn the skies a silvery white, or that produce cobweb-like clouds, or an atmospheric haze as mentioned. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's why I'm reading this book instead of going to bed. Any bright trail behind a jet that lasts for much more than a few seconds is likely not just a condensation trail. The high bypass turbofan jet engine is on all commercial carriers and all military tankers. This engine is nearly incapable of producing a condensation trail due to its design, as 80% of the air that passes through this engine is non-combustive. It is important to consider that much of the SAG and SRM operations occur over fully canopied skies, where the spraying cannot be readily seen. Number 2. Elements such as barium, aluminium, which is very toxic and poison, strontium and manganese, showing up in lab tests of precipitation in extreme quantities across the earth. For example, a lab test for a single rain event taken in Shasta County, California in 2006 measured 7 parts per billion ppb for aluminium, already high. Less than 5 years later, at the same location, a single rain event measured 3,450 ppb for aluminium. This is an increase of nearly 50,000%. Aluminium is a primary element listed in numerous climate engineering patents, and they get that aluminium at a real cheap rate from Jamaica, and the people who live near there, you should see those lakes after they've dug out the aluminium. They're dangerous, poison, toxic. It's another story, that. Number 3. According to the California Air Resources Board, CARB, which does extensive air quality studies, aluminium is not among the aerosols migrating in the atmosphere from China. Heavy metals do not migrate such distances, with the exception of mercury, which converts to a gaseous state. Number 4, numerous lab tests have determined that the soil pH has been radically altered in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. There is so much aluminium raining down on us that soil pH tests from Shasta and Siskiyou counties, for example, have changed as much as 15 times toward alkaline. 5. Aquatic insect populations have also been severely affected by metal contamination in the formerly pristine watershed in regions of Northern California. Aquatic insect populations have declined as much as 90% in the last decade, according to studies done by 35-year U.S. Forest Service veteran biologist Francis Mangels. A similar decline in terrestrial insect populations have also been noted. 6. Earth-wide dimming, the reduction in the amount of Earth's direct sunlight that reaches the Earth's surface, has reached 20% due to the light scattering and reflecting metal particulates in the atmosphere. These dimming studies compare the amount of direct sunlight that currently reaches the surface of the Earth as compared to 5 decades ago. Blocking the sun is the primary goal of solar radiation management, SRM. I will read up to number 11 and stop there because there's a great deal more. So I'll finish reading the numbers. We're on 7 now, so I'll stop at 11, okay? Thank you if you're still there listening. Number 7. Drought and deluge is now the norm around the globe. Geoengineering completely disrupts and derails the hydrological cycle, which fuels extreme weather events. Number 8. Verified massive ozone holes are now present over the northern and southern hemispheres. Very harmful UVB radiation levels are off the charts. This is unfortunately not being reported by official agencies. So what does that tell you? It tells me that the governments are in on it and they know about it. And my question to that is why? Are they representing themselves or are they representing the voters? Back to number 9. Atmospheric conductivity has increased radically, leaving the Earth more prone to increased lightning strikes. Number 10, nearly there, the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, AMEG, the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, has repeatedly called for emergency wartime scale geoengineering to avert a world catastrophe unfolding in the Arctic right now due to the imploding Arctic ice cap and massive methane release. The paradox is that available data makes clear that the ongoing climate engineering is making an already bad climate situation far worse overall, not better. The final one now, you'll be pleased to hear, is number 11. The US military has for decades stated its intense interest in climate engineering programs for strategic military purposes. For example, owning the weather by 2025, that's 5 years from now, I'll probably be dead by then. Top US military leaders have repeatedly stated on the record that climate change is the greatest national security threat of all. It would be extremely naive to believe that the US military is not completely involved in Earth-wide climate modification programs. In fact, there are numerous film footage segments of military tankers spraying materials at altitude available for any that choose to investigate. Well, they're happening here. Their biggest planes, USFA planes, are here at Marham and all other bases in UK. And they're also in all countries all over the world. This is nothing new, but they're just keeping it top secret, and it's only a few people who notice and take the trouble to research. And I'm quite willing to read this for those that can't buy the book, and for it to, well, who knows, it'll end up on brand YouTube like poor Dr. Vernon Coleman, but it'll go out somewhere because the truth needs to be told. We don't waste our time. People don't waste their time getting facts, researching facts, writing books, and I don't waste my time. It's precious reading to you if I'm not reading the truth. Well, what do I want to waste my time for as a Christian? To read lies? I'm not willing to read lies to anybody or tell lies to anybody. No, I stand by what I'm reading because I see what he's describing, where I live. I don't have to go anywhere. It's out there. It's there. Continually. And you hear the planes. Who wants to fly planes all the time? Why? Who's paying to run those big planes? Some of them are very big. Can't see them for what they're doing. You see the effects and feel the effects. If you came in here with some testing stuff, you'd find all that stuff particularly in my bedroom where the windows are open wide all day long. The dust comes in, it comes on the windows. You see it and you know it's not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. This is a clean country area. This is not a city. It comes from spraying. Well, I suggest you buy the book. But if you don't want to, you have to put up with me reading it to you. Anyway, thank you for listening. God bless and have a good night. I'll read some more, but I don't know when.